My next stop is on the border between Monaghan and Louth. But centuries ago, this border separated more than just a couple of counties. It was a frontier between two cultures.
I tell you, I haven't seen one of these beauties for such a long time. But this pump today marks the border between County Louth and County Monaghan. But 600 years ago, it also marked the spot and the border between the Pale, which was run by the Anglo-Normans, and on this side of the road, you entered Gaelic Ireland. And around these parts, the McMahons ruled the roost.
And it's still McMahon country to this day. This is the dairy farm of Seamus McMahon. He's recently turned one of his barns into a brewery, and in doing so, Seamus is keeping an old Brehon tradition alive.
Under Brehon law, every town or every Brehon controlled area would have had a tradition of brewing.
You're probably picking up an old tradition. There was old Macmahonas here long ago who were brewing.
There would have been
hundreds of years
brewing
ago.
And drinking, I would think, John, yeah.
A bit of both, yeah.
The Brehon Brewhouse is part of a new movement, reviving a tradition of local brewing, which had all but died out by the early 1900s. Head brewer Phil is showing me the ropes.
These are the hops.
Oh, this is hops.
Yeah, we'll add them in now for the bittering.
And it's here to give it a little bitter bite, is it?
Yes.
After a couple of weeks fermenting, our beer will be ready. Brewing may actually go back even further than Brehon times, right back to the Bronze Age, 4,000 years ago. In a field overlooking the brewery, I'm meeting up with archaeologists Billy Quinn and Declan Moore to find out more.
Well, I have to say, this is a typical Irish scene, isn't it? Three men standing around looking into a hole, one of them leaning on a shovel.
Basically, what we're looking at is a Bronze Age way of heating water, and that's the key.
Billy and Declan are reconstructing what's known as a Fulucht Fia. The remains of pits like these have been found all over the country, and the lads have come up with a controversial theory on what they were used for.
Conventional wisdom with regards to Fulucht Fias is that they were used for cooking meat, that the hot stones were added to the water, bringing it to boiling point in order to boil up your meat.
Slow cooker.
A slow cooker.
Yeah.
But our theory differs in that our logic is that if you've got a perfectly good fire here,
Right.
why wouldn't you roast your shank of meat?
Yeah.
So our feeling is that there's another purpose.
Absolutely, Fulucht Fias were used for cooking, but we postulated that they could have been used for beer.
Making beer in a Fulucht Fia is pretty similar to the modern process. You start with water, heat it with those stones from the fire, then you add your malted barley. There were no hops in Bronze Age Ireland, so instead we're using some wild herbs. And like all brewers, our Bronze Age ancestors would have had to wait at least a few days for their beer to ferment.
This whole process, it's pretty relaxed. And I suppose back in the Bronze Age, you can imagine a lot of people just getting involved in this.
Yeah. And given the Irish reputation for generations, for conviviality and for beer, can you put those two together here? You can really, can't you?
I think you can.
Yeah.
We have got a global reputation for our propensity for beer, for good or bad, but if we're correct in the terms of what the Fulucht was used for, in prehistory there were up to 6,000 of these monuments.
Right.
Meaning that we would have had probably the most prolific prehistoric beer industry on the planet.
Is there anything we could taste?
We have one we prepared earlier.
Well, a few years
Is there beer in
earlier,
those two bottles?
There is, yeah, but we're not sure whether they're a year old, 3 years old,
Are you winding me up now?
or 5 years old. No.
Is there a label on them or anything, no?
No, that's what I'm saying about quality control.
Do you even know where they've been for the last couple of years?
In Billy's shed.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if it's still carbonated, if there's a bit of fizz in it. How's it smell?
Well, it smells like beer. Okay.
Oh, there's a fizz in that, yeah.
It's getting a bit of a head even.
Yeah. It is okay, isn't it?
That's fine,
Yeah.
that's fine.
It's actually nice. I suppose at this stage, all we can do is toast our ancestors.
There
Yeah.
we go. To the Bronze
Amen.
Age brewers.
Yeah. God bless them. Boss and Aaron.
Ross and Aaron. That's all right.
That is grand. I'm surprised. I thought this was going to be terrible.
Well, with the day's work done, it's time to kick back and sample some of that Brehon beer.
Is this the recipe I was working on this morning, is it? Yeah.
I have to say, John, you've done a decent job on that now today.
That's nice. And here's to it. And generations more of it. Thanks, lads. That was a great day. The one key ingredient, I think, that permeated all the beer and all the day was the crack. That whole idea of conviviality that I can hear now in the night sky behind me. Like, that really, in many ways, is the key to the whole thing. Whether it's our ancient ancestors gathered around the Fulloch Fia, or whether it's people tasting in a microbrewery, or just families getting together like the McMahons here in Monaghan. It's all part of being Irish.